Okay, this is H3, day 1, and we're introducing the reason why we use an O for the ut sound in these words. So the words are son, done, none, come, some, other, mother, brother, another, nothing. So I've got a really good poem wee story that helps you understand this, and some people call it the lazy monk story. So either way, it tells you why we use the letter O for the ut sound in these words. So 1500 years ago, if you wanted a book, you couldn't go to a bookshop and buy one because there were no shops. And they didn't have printing presses or photocopiers or anything to make making a book easy. So what you had to do is you had to go to a monastery, and a monastery is a place where if you're a boy or a man, you could go to a monastery and devote your life to learning and to praying or talking to God, and they would teach you how to do maths and how to read and write. So the monks, these are the people who did that. They devoted their lives, so they didn't see their families really much anymore, and they just went to a monastery and they lived and worked and talked to God, and they were the ones who learnt, who could read and write, and they're the people who would write the book. So you could only have a book if you had a lot of money, and you would have to go to the monastery and pay the monk to write out a book for you. And it would take about 6 monks, approximately a year, to copy out a book. It depended on how big the book was. So what they'd have to do is, first of all, they'd have to go out into the forest and collect the bark off trees and mush it up with water and put it into a frame to make paper. And if the person ordering and buying the book had a lot of money, they would pay them to kill a deer, and they'd skin the deer, and then they'd wee on the skin of the deer to make the skin nice and soft like the pages in a book. Then they'd cut up the skin into squares, and they'd have to sew the pages together in the book for them. Then the next thing they'd have to do is to go out, because you couldn't go and just pick up a pen or a pencil. They had to make ink. So they'd go out and collect different coloured leaves, different roots, and they'd boil them up to make ink. And if you ever go to have a look at some of these very, very old books and you read the captions that go with them, you'll notice in the pictures, because they used to fill in all these little spaces with minute pictures of things, they used to paint them with horsehair. So they have 6 horsehairs on their brush to paint a picture inside these tiny little spaces. And you would notice that a lot of the pictures were predominantly had tones of brown or red. And so to create those colours, quite often and to add a bit of texture to the ink, they would mix a bit of poo in with it as well. And then they'd have to go and find a feather from a female swan. So if you might know that a female swan is called a pen, and today the tools we use in writing are still called a pen. We've got a pencil. So that they would have to dip the feather or the quill into the ink to write on the paper. Now they use this very flamboyant writing style, these ones here. That says love, that says oven, and this says one. So they used a cursive script, and it was much fancier than mine. So it was quite difficult to read when you had to read these words with a U before a V or after a W. So if any of the letters had a lot of up and down strokes either side of that U, it made it very difficult for them to write those words, and it also made it difficult for people to read them. So quite often they had customers coming back to them saying, we can't read these words in the book which have all these up and down strokes in them, or minims as we would call them in music or in writing. And so the monks, being the clever people they were, decided in these words where there were too many up and down strokes to make it easy for them to write or for people to read, they would change the U to an O for the ot sound. So you can see immediately it's much easier for people to read. Now, when they were having such difficulty writing that U next to those letters with a lot of up and down strokes, they were making a lot of mistakes. So that meant they had to go back and make more pages for their book. So that meant gather more bark, kill more deer, do more wee, collect more leaves, collect more roots, do more poo, mix it all together, farm more feathers from a pen, and so forth. So it was a big process they had to go through. They couldn't rub out a mistake with a rubber or with liquid paper or cover. They had to start the whole page again. So it was quite a big move to change the spelling of these words. So that's why in all of these words, because the letters either side of that O in these words, which is making the ut sound, have a lot of up and down strokes or vertical strokes, we have changed the ut sound to an O. So that's my poo and wee story, or my lazy monk story. So if you have a look at these words, we also have some other words that could be spelt the same way. So son, this is son meaning a boy child of a parent, of a mother or of a father. So the sun in the sky is spelt differently. Sometimes we spell words differently just to show that they mean different things. Done means something that you have completed, you've already done it. If you're going to do it, that will be in the future, but past tense of do is done. None means zero or nothing at all. Come means when you ask someone to come to you, or you might say to a friend, oh, I'm coming to your house. And you know, any of these words where you want to change it to coming, the E goes away when in comes to stay. This is an irregular verb too, so we wouldn't say, oh, he come to my house. We would have to say, he came to my house. So when we want to make that say past tense, we've got to change the O to an A. Some means a few of something, means more than one. Other means something different, the other day or another day. Mother means the female parent in a family. Brother means the male sibling, so brother and sister would be the siblings, the brother is the male sibling. Another means a more or another one more of something. Nothing comes from the word no thing, and over time we've joined that together to say, and we've changed the way we say it from no thing to nothing. So there's some other things in these words. You've got the ER at the end for the sound. Yes, there's quite a lot in that list. But the main thing is that you understand why we use an O for the ut sound in these words. Now let's get on and read it, sound it, spell it, write it. So we've got sun, S-A-N, 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 S-O-N, S-O-N, S-O-N. Cover it and write it 3 times. Once again, it's very important to sound these words, and then you search in your brain for the letters that represent those sounds in these words. So you've got done, d-a-n, 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 but we're not writing an we're writing an O. So then we spell it D-O-N-E, 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 and you write it 3 times, cover it, check it when you're finished, make sure you spelt it correctly. Off you go. Okay, H3, day 2, we're revising that we may use an O for the ut sound in some words where they have a lot of up and down strokes in them. So we talked on day 1 about the lazy monk story, where we have words like oven, which used to be written like that with the U for the ut sound, one, which had the U for the ut sound, and love. And you could see that they were very hard for the monks who wrote the books to write these words because there were so many up and down strokes, and they were writing with a quill. And it was very hard for the readers to read the words because of all these up and down strokes that they had in these words where they used the U for the ut sound. So the monks, being the clever people they were, decided to change the U to an O in these words to make it easier for people to read, and it made it easier for them to write. because if they made a mistake on a page when they were writing them, they'd have to start the whole page again. So it was a lot of work for them. So that's why we use the O for the up sound in some words. There's not an awful lot of them, but there are some. So we've got sun, sun, done, but we know we're using an O, none, come, some, other, mother, brother, and another, and this comes from the word no thing. They joined it together to say nothing. Okay, so you have to read the word, sound the word, spell the word, copy it and check it. So read it, sun, S-O-N, and you cover it and write it and then check to see if you've written it correctly. So sometimes we also spell words differently to show that they mean different things. So you would know this is a boy child a boy child would be called the son of his parents. The sun in the sky we still spell with a U. Okay, now let's have a look. Finish the word and write the word next to its meaning. Another, so we know it's an up sound there, but we're putting an O for the up sound there. A male child would be a son, so you have to write the missing word here. Then down the bottom we've got homophones. Link the word to the correct picture. So these are words that sound the same, but they mean different things. So we've got a sun like that and a sun like that. You can link these words to their pictures. Make a compound word. This is where we join two words together to make one word. So we could have no one, brotherhood, something. Just have to join them with a line. You can finish that page on your own. H3, day 3, we're revising that the letter O can make the up sound in some words. And we know from day 1 and day 2 that that's because of the lazy monks found that it was very difficult for them to write words where they had a lot of up and down strokes. If they used the U next to a V, for instance. And so they decided to change the U to an O to make it easier for them to write, so they didn't make so many mistakes when they were writing, because that meant they had to start the whole page again. And it also made it easier for the people who were buying the books and reading them to be able to read them, because it was very difficult for them to read these words with all the up and down strokes. So the words we've got in this list are typically the words that they were finding difficult to write and people were finding difficult to read. So let's make this, mark this O in all of these, so that we know when we're reading them we have to give it the up sound, but when we're writing them we have to write the letter O. So we've got sun, done, none, come, some, other, mother, brother, and another, and nothing. Okay, so read the word, sound the word, spell the word. We've got sun, S-O-N, cover it and write it. The next part we have verb families. So we've got do, does, and you know that if a word ends in O and we want to add an S, we have to have two vowels before the S, and we've got that in does if we put that E in. The next part we're adding the ing, and this is the next part is past tense. So we've got do, does, doing, has done or did. Then comes from the base word come, so we've got come, comes, coming. Now when you add the ing, if a word ends in E goes away when ing comes to stay. So don't forget to take away the E and add the ing for this last one. And there's a little alert there for you so you remember. And past tense, we wouldn't say He come home, we would say he came. So you've got to change this vowel, this O, into an A. Fill in the gaps using list word extensions. She's something, second in the race. We could do some of these words here. She came second in the race. So it's past tense of come. Plurals and apostrophes. We've put a little alert box in here to tell you. We add an S to form a plural. For example, dogs. We add S, apostrophe S, to show that the thing belongs to them, e.g. Tom's dog. We're not saying there's lots of Toms here, we're saying the dog belongs to Tom. So we put the apostrophe S to show that possession. Okay, so now we've got the words brothers, mothers, the possession apostrophe S, and mothers, the possession apostrophe S. So we've got all the mothers like their gifts, so that's just saying the plural form. So that will be that one. Aren't something love lasts forever? A mother's love lasts forever? We're saying the love belongs to the mother. There's only one mother, and the love belongs to them. The two brothers like to fight. We're talking about a plural because we've got two, so it would be brothers. My brother's arms are strong. We're saying the arms belong to your brother. You've only got one brother, possibly. So we've got the apostrophe at the end of the base word. So when we're putting the apostrophe in, you have to work out if it's a singular or a plural, and it goes at the end of the singular base word or end of the plural base word. But here we're just working with the singular to keep it simple for you. One brother and one mother. We're saying the love belongs to your mother and the strong arms belong to your brother. Proofreading. Now this is because we've put this proofreading in running writing because you can see then how difficult it was for the monks and the people reading their books with reading these words when they had to always write in a cursive script, and the difficulty is to see that up sound with all those up and down strokes. So look for where you can see a word spelled correctly and only highlight the correct one. So that says done, that doesn't say, that's not spelling love correctly, that's not spelling mother correctly. So only highlight the ones where the words are spelled correctly with the O for the ut sound. H3 day 4, we've got a crossword for irregular verbs. So irregular verbs means that we're not doing our usual thing of adding ed to the end of our verb to make it mean it's past tense. So we've got finish the crossword puzzle across. So find number 3 box. Here's number 3 box. It's going to have 4 letters. Our teacher says, saying or said we should skip count every day. So highlight the word that you think it would be. Our teacher said we should skip count every day. So let's see if that's a word. There's 2 words there which have 4 letters. So we'll write in said, S-A-I-D, and then we'll check it. We'll do number 1 down. It, something, all gone. It am all gone. It is all gone, or it are all gone. Is would be the correct one. So we put the is yes, said. Now let's double check it with number 2. If you annoy a dog, it may bite you, bites you, biting you, bit you. 4 letters, it must be bite, and bite sounds correct too. So let's highlight it and then write the letters into 1 letter per box. Bite, and the E makes previous vowel make its long sound. So sometimes you might have to check if a word's right by also going down or across to check it. Okay, you can finish the rest of those on your own.